Hello, dear friends. Joe Mobley's here. Joe Mobley Show. Hi, Joe.
Hey, Ari, how are you?
Just the other day, I was talking with a friend of mine. We are on, right? Okay, people seeing us. So I was talking to him, and he was boasting about going to Detroit quite often, and how changed Detroit was. How did it change in the years that he's going there? And he said that, and he's like everything Republican except for hatred for Donald Trump. So that's where we argued in the end. But I said that those trips across America are very uplifting, and they give you a lot of hope because you see the muscle of this country. You see how hard it would be to to fight it all and end it all with us. But being holed up in places like I'm in Brooklyn and you're in Virginia, in Loudoun County, where you have this terrible school board and the events that shook the nation, actually. So how do you feel about, the nation in general this morning?
Complicated question. I feel good because I'm a scrappy person. Like I'm fighting no matter what. If we need to go down with the ship, then that's what we're gonna do. If we need to take drastic action to right the ship, then that's what we're gonna do. And I went on like a 90-minute walk before this, and I listened to about 90 minutes of Charlie Kirk. And I don't always listen to Charlie Kirk's podcast because it's 3 hours long. He's got a very long show. But he's talking about the activation that we're seeing in young people. And I consider myself a young person. I'm in my early 30s, that we're seeing across college campuses and in some high schools. And I think, I don't have huge data to back this up, but I think people who are born free, who have experienced the fighting American spirit, the thriving economy, the things that we've experienced and love about this country, I don't see them permanently subjugating themselves to tyranny. Maybe for a time. Obviously, we have an idiot in the White House who doesn't know what he's doing. Obviously, we have unacceptable conditions, from food availability to gas prices to the labor force participation rates. I mean, there are so many things that are terrible. The dumpster fire is raging so bright. But kids are woke. Kids are woke. There's no doubt about it. And corporations are woke. And we're about to have this thing where corporations are going to have to be slashing their budgets. They're going to have to choose between their existence. Wokeism poses an existential crisis to a company. So as inflation takes off and as we head into this recession and it really takes effect, Coke is going to have to think, are we doing things for the balance sheet, or are we going to continue to prop up BLM and George Floyd and pretend that cops are racist and all this nonsense, which is costing us money? So we're going to start to see corporations cast off the woke agenda because they need to survive and make money. And I think that young people are going to follow suit. Some of the bullcrap they've been doing in the workplace, like filing HR complaints over pronouns, and someone made them feel bad waiting in line in the chow hall or whatever. I think we're going to see all that stuff go away.
In my program, as I told you, and as it says here on screen, it's yuri4us.com. I'm running for Congress, and I must say, quite unexpectedly to some extent for myself, because yeah, it all happened a few months ago, and people are saying, you have to have this done, and you have to have had this done. And the truth of the story is that I was there was redistricting in early June. In the area, so I had to refile all the paperwork again. It's not that much, but until then, it was not understood what was happening in the area. So I was proposed as a fact, as a matter of fact, I was, since the beginning of COVID, since the beginning of 2020, I started conversations on YouTube explaining in Russian to the Russian population here, and it turned out in Canada as well, and then all over the country, what's going on in American politics, what's happening in Brooklyn. We covered a lot of topics. Some programs were not even political. They were about poetry, they were about music, they were about this and that, but people started following, and the topic that I was most kind of encouraged to talk about was politics. And based on this, we managed to elect in November last year. We managed to elect a young woman, a Republican, for the first time to the city, to the New York City Council, Ina Vernikov, 48th district. So she represents now our area, and she's a fiery speaker, and she's a doer, and she's fighting things like anti-Semitism and the city usual, stuff that's happening here, the usual mess here in New York. So she's trying to she's finding common language with a lot of people. She thought she wouldn't be able to find anything in common. Actually, when you meet in person, it's a very important and refreshing thing. But what do you think?
Well, real quick on what you're talking about. The important thing about you guys getting this councilwoman elected and you running is no one came. I'm from Long Island. I'm from the western Long Island, Nassau County. No one came and told you, gave you permission to do this. In the United States, we the people are the sovereign. We hold the authority, and we allow the government to govern. That's the principle of consent of the governed. So there are so many people that are sitting around waiting. Oh, things are so bad. What's Congress going to do? What's the president going to do? And then you and your grassroots movement in Brooklyn, if it can be done in Brooklyn, then no one anywhere else has an excuse. Okay, this is one of the most deeply blue areas, just like LA County, just like Chicago, just like Detroit, and still a group of citizens can get together, grassroots. You can jump on YouTube and explain to a population who might not be getting accurate news from CNN, hey, this is what's going on in their native tongue.
Absolutely.
And that's what needs to happen, because I'm just tired of people that run for office that don't believe that their offices have any power. It's consent of the governed. When we send, I'm on this Charlie Kirk kick, but he's like, the XL pipeline runs through all red states, and those governors need to say, you know what, we're just going to build this pipeline, and the federal government doesn't have the authority to tell us we can't. We are building something in our states in partnership with other states. And for you all to do what you did in Brooklyn, what Ian Pryor and the Army of Moms did in Loudoun County to try and get rid of our school board, which is an ongoing effort, and there are several lawsuits going on and movement on that front. It's us exercising our authority as the sovereign in the United States, which is something that is only done here. This is not our form of government. It only manifests in reality here in the United States. It's not like this in Canada. It's not like this in Western civilized countries in the European Union. It's certainly not like this in Australia. So I had to get on that soapbox, because if Yuri can do it, and if a scrappy group of Brooklanders can do it, then no one has an excuse.
No, absolutely. And you know what's then? It turned into Election Central for a while. So Ina got elected, and she started showing some work, some results, and people are kind of love the successes. People love when something good comes out of it. And that we all know the list of 10 things that Donald Trump did as a president, the biggest achievements. Yesterday, I went to the White House website, and there's so much work that he's done. I don't know. It's like on a printer. I wanted to print it out. It turned out to be like 150 pages. Small things that people have no idea about, and bigger things that people have no idea about. And it's kind of boring to recite them all, but it's a lot of stuff that he's done.
Oh yeah, I went on during Pride Month. I went undercover at a Loudoun Pride event, and I was telling people, not only was he the only president who came into office, when he swore the oath of office for the president, he was already pro-gay marriage or non-traditional marriage. Not Barack Obama, not Joe Biden, not any of these other presidents. It was Donald Trump. He's the only one that went on an international campaign in Middle Eastern countries and Western Bloc countries to try and get them to legalize gay marriage in countries like Ukraine, which is still illegal, in countries like Middle Eastern countries, mostly Arabic speaking or Muslim nation countries. No president has done that, and Donald Trump gets no credit for all of this stuff that he did. And it's not just the boom. Like he did that top 10 stuff, like that a lot of people like us know, but like you said, he's done dozens of things that people have not even heard whisper of, and he wasn't out there showboating for the credit. I'll be honest, I was nervous when Trump first ran. And, I was looking at Ben Carson, who's brilliant. I knew he wasn't going to win the primary. I'm not a libertarian, but I was looking at Gary Johnson a lot. I don't like where Gary Johnson stands on abortion. But with economics and things like that, he's got a lot of good ideas. But I was blown away. Like, weeks into Donald Trump's presidency, I became ultra-MAGA for sure.
Yeah, his speech, the inauguration speech, is one of my favorites. Of all times. I love to get back to that, and also to this huge.
You'll like his second inauguration speech better.
Yeah. I know, but there was this big picture shot by Google, special cam, very high definition cam, like state of the art camera for 2016, and they covered the field, the audience, the people who gathered to listen to him. Mm-hmm. And there was no empty space at all. And you look at this and you hear the news that there was no one came and nobody was listening, and there was not a full failure. It was just amazing. Who do you believe? Your own lying eyes or us? It was a total image of this whole thing. But listen, I wanted to ask your opinion. I'm wearing this cap. I put it on. I made it myself. I bought a red cap. I bought the sticker. I put it together like, good soldier before a battle. I put everything together by myself. I put it on. I went talking probably like very early in my webcast. I went in the cap, and some people say now that you're going for office, you have to lose the cap. And I say, listen, this is what brought me here. It's like, forgetting who your benefactors are, people who helped you to get where you are in life. Second thing, a lot of materials, speaking practically, where I'm wearing this cap. So if I take it off, people say, oh, that's another politician. That's another guy who wants to be liked. That's another one who thinks that with a spoonful of sugar, he can get elected. So what's your opinion? What people have as a response to the MAGA cap these days where you live?
Oh, I wear my hat. They're actually downstairs. I have two of them, and they're right on the hook, right by the door. I wear them every day except Sunday. I take a break on Sunday.
Yeah.
But I tell people to kick rocks. And they try, and there are two issues over the hat. Because on the one hand, a lot of conservatives, a lot of people that believe in the Constitution and the principles espoused in the Declaration of Independence and in the writings and letters and journal entries of the founding fathers, a lot of people believe in all of that stuff, and that is what is enshrined in the phrase "Make America Great Again." America is the standout greatest nation that ever exists. We've done here what no group of people have ever been able to do. And every generation has a responsibility in keeping the flame of liberty alive. And we are being tested in a big way, this current generation. But then there's the other group of people, and this is the vast majority. They try and make it about Donald Trump. And I get it. It was Donald Trump's campaign slogan. I get it. I'll quote things that I believe in that a Kennedy said, or Nixon or somebody. It doesn't mean that the totality of this statement is just about that individual. One, I am ashamedly a huge fan of Donald Trump. I would vote for him for a third term. Hey, maybe we should vote for him, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times in the next election. Maybe that's what needs to be done to get this thing over the finish line. I think Donald Trump is one of the greatest presidents in the history of the United States, one of the most effective presidents. And I don't know if it comes from his business leadership, his life experience, the fact that he was a Democrat and converted over. I don't know where it comes from, but he was extremely effective. He made some bad moves, and I think some of them was mainly about who was on his, who his inner circle was. Actually, I don't know who his inner circle was, but who was in his circle. He probably should have, forced retired or fired some people. And I don't pretend to understand all of the intricacies of the office of president, but he definitely had some people around him that did more harm than good. But I will never stop wearing the hat. And like the Christian crowd, when some Christians get into it with me, I ask them about their evangelism habits. I ask them how they explain the problem of evil, how they lead people to the cross, how they talk about the kingdom of God and kingdom building. I ask them about all these things. And then come to find out, me and my stupid hat, my hat and me walking around in the community, I get more conversations with people that I would have never had because they say something usually pejorative about the hat. And I submit myself to engaging in conversation with them and to hearing their arguments against Make America Great Again or their arguments against Donald Trump. And more of those conversations lead to the problem of evil and to true ethics and morality and to the cross than anything that most of the people in my church are doing. So I just tell them to kick rocks. I'm actually talking to people about good and evil, right and wrong, about politics and also about theology. And you're sitting here talking about my freaking hat.
Yeah.
But
get over this. Let's get to the core. Let's get to what makes our life, not anybody else's life.
Well, either you love the country or you don't. And if you don't love the country, then you are a deeply conflicted person because you're staying here. It's like we live in this divorce culture where everyone's like, oh, just divorce. And I'm like, okay, well, you're married to a country. You live here. You're a citizen. You pay taxes here. You have a relationship. You are so intertwined with what it is to be America. You live in America. You're an American and you're a citizen of the country and of a state. Then leave. If you don't believe that America is great, if you don't believe in American exceptionalism, if you don't believe that we should be trying to make our country great, then why are you here? You are very confused.
The world is so huge. Joe, it was incredibly rude of me not to allow you to say a few words about yourself and what brought you to this point in life. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Oh yeah, no worries at all. Well, I am Joe Mobley. For the audience, if you haven't noticed, I am black and I am very conservative. So I should have brought my hat, man. I can't run downstairs though. I should have been rocking the hat for this. But anyway,
we'll do it again. Don't worry about it.
I'm from Long Island, but I lie and say that I'm from Virginia because we moved. I was very young. We're talking like third grade. No, second grade was in Long Island. We're talking like third grade. Our family moved to Virginia Beach. So I claim to be a Virginian. I grew up in Virginia. I love Virginia. I love the history here, the beautiful forest and mountains. And of course, New York City in the 90s was quite the place. So it's a little bit more relaxing down here.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we're seeing a return to those types of crime statistics and whatnot. But anyway, I'm a podcast, radio, and streaming show host like yourself. It's the Joe Mobley Show because I couldn't think of a more creative name than the name my parents gave me, so I just went with that. And hey, my whole thing is coming out of the conservative closet. I'm an uncloseted conservative. Yuri is. We need more people to share their thoughts, their opinions, and beliefs. If you feel that you can't share your thoughts, opinions, and beliefs for fear of being fired, canceled, persecuted, your neighbors hating you, people committing crime against you, any of that stuff, that means that you live under tyranny. You're subjugated. You're a slave of some kind. I refuse to live that way. And it happens all over. People say, you know, Trump's a racist, and you feel that, like, he's not. You want to say something, but you don't, because you don't want to get into it. You don't want to be outed as a Trump supporter. You don't want to be outed as someone that believes in individual liberty, the Second Amendment. After a school shooting, people will be talking about how evil guns are. And you feel that pressure, like, oh, that's not quite right, but I don't want to say anything. It's such an emotional, no, bullcrap. Say something. Does something need to be said? Yes. Does it need to be said by you? Yes. Does it need to be said right now? Yes. So I'm working at the time in 2020, I'm working at one of the largest consulting firms in the world. Huge amounts of data and responsibility. And between COVID and George Floyd, I just had enough of the nonsense and just feeling like, hey, we are being deeply irresponsible to buy into this nonsense and to perpetuate these lies that we know are harmful. And I'm a harm reductionist. I want policy, and I want people to live in a way that results in less harm and promotes human flourishing. So,
Absolutely. You in New York, they say grow or die. That's the way of humanity. You cannot really avoid this, and people are so comfortable these days. The lowest turnout numbers for elections, and our salvation, if I may say so, is in numbers that would show up to vote. Because as again, I apologize for self quoting, but I repeat again and again that if we just move away from any party and we look at our own interests for a second, we move away, not forever. We just look at our own interest and we say we want this in life and that in life and this in life. So then we look at the program and we look at the facts. We all vote Republican as things stand now. There is nothing good that the Democratic Party can offer Americans anywhere in this country, anywhere. Everything they offer is at least, the safest thing is the unicorns and rainbows, which unfortunately, since they closed Toys R Us, you cannot really prove they exist anywhere.
I got to say something about your constituents that you might not want to say, because they need to vote for you. This is something that pisses me off about New Yorkers. Many of my family still live up top, so and some of them have fled to Jersey. I'm like, this is hardly better. They live in North Jersey. But anyway, this is what pisses me off about New Yorkers. New Yorkers are so scrappy, so tough. And New Yorkers means New York City, guys. It means that tri-state area, okay? Some of the scrappiest, toughest people, and really, to call a spade, some of the most resilient people. You can throw insurmountable obstacles at New Yorkers, and New Yorkers will come out, will rise from the ashes, whatever the circumstance, right? So it kills me that they are that person, that raises up these tough, resilient people, but they're also, in the same breath, ultra dependent on the government. If there was a population of people that could thrive without government intervention, people that are tough and that have good instincts and that achieve no matter what, it's New Yorkers. New Yorkers don't even need a government. So it blows my mind. It blows my, I think about members of my family, like some of the toughest, strongest people that I've ever met. But I'm like, how are you so dependent? And they're not actually dependent, but they vote as if they are. And it blows my mind. New Yorkers, listen to my voice. You will be okay. You will be okay.
Yeah, everybody's like in the Russian community. It's in the Russian-speaking community. Somebody's correcting me here because a lot of people who listen today, we have very, a problematic relationship with the word Russian. A lot of Russian Americans, as we are called here, Russian-speaking Americans, we are shocked, to use this very popular word these days. We were shocked by what's happening, what Russia is doing in Ukraine, this whole business of murdering people, raping people, robbing the nation, stealing, and important thing that I think in America people don't know enough about Russia today is that the machine, the word Goebbels is a very popular word when they speak about the propaganda, all these extreme things that call for extermination, for genocide, for Holocaust, and things like this. What they built in Russia, I think it's about to surpass, if it has not yet, to surpass what Goebbels built in Nazi Germany. It's not enough attention to what they're spewing, the hatred they're spewing towards this country and towards Ukraine. Ukraine is like they dehumanizing people. They talk about denazification and they whatever is the other word that they use, the demilitarization, but the humanization is the main thing. What they're doing is a democide. It's not a genocide. They don't want to kill only Ukrainians. They want to kill the whole people of Ukraine, the entire people of Ukraine. They're destroying it. They don't know how to wage war otherwise. They don't go after military targets. Forget Geneva Convention. Forget anything like that. They're just stealing people from there, bringing them into Russia, bringing them into labor camps. And the television there is, they pick up the worst from our media government industrial complex, and they bring it to absolutely absurd level of hatred. And Americans would be just, I mean, I haven't seen anything on American TV that would really tell the story how they promote, for many, many years, they promote this hatred towards the rest of the world. I was, when I started, I was invited to a program from here, from Brooklyn. I participated as an American in one of the most hostile programs ever created on Russian television. There is Vladimir Solovyov, a person who makes like, I think some said $1 million, million euros a month, creating those pro-Putin broadcasts. And it was, to me, it was a certain tactics to go through it, and I decided to go there because I'm starting as a radio kind of talking head, and I cannot abandon the post. I got to stay where I'm posted, and I got to respond to slings and arrows thrown my way. And a lot of people said, you went there, you kind of gave him the legitimacy. And I said that he's a guy who's making $1 million a month. And I am just a volunteer from Brooklyn who wants to explain to him what's going on in the United States. And the guy, like, ignoring everything. They say, what American Constitution? You have no Constitution. Putin destroyed the sense of shame, Whatever you think of this country, a lot of people who demonstrate the absence of shame in what's going on in Russia right now, he absolved every sin, so to speak. It's just amazing. Russians are shocked. And the situation now where we see how it's abused and how the world is helpless, basically, to stop this war. And the Russians know, and the Russian-speaking people know, and the Russian Americans know that you cannot let Putin claim that he won this war, because there will be another war. And that's just around the corner, because he has lots of resources, and sanctions didn't work. And oil is flowing to China and flowing to India and other countries. There's a whole bunch of countries still buying from them. And Europe is buying gas. I mean, the natural gas and the oil products. So it's a terrible situation. And what's your take? How does it turn for how? What's the perception of this war now? How it evolved? What do you think? Where do you think it's going?
Oh, there are a couple of there are several perceptions of the war. One of them is that it's kind of a posturing type thing, because you said something when you were talking that made me think of this. But it's like some of the war 101 things they're not doing, going after military targets, cutting off the So I was 11 years Army, and you get to military training. The first thing they do, it's all the same stuff. They kind of mint you this number. They give you an ID tag. They give you a weapon, tell you that, hey, you live and breathe with this thing. Like, you don't leave it anywhere. But when you first get into the training, there's it's basic training for a reason. This is war 101. You have to do these. If you're going to wage war, you got to do these 10 things. You have to cut off main supply routes. You have to kind of choke the resources out of an area, and And these are the types of things that you go at. This is what a deliberate ambush is. And it seems when I first looked at it, it seemed like they weren't doing any of those things, any of the War 101 type things. And I don't know if it's about the footage that gets out. I saw a video of a tank, probably a tank platoon. And some of the maneuvers that they were doing just made absolutely no sense to me. Then on the other hand, something that you talked about is the propaganda. Propaganda needs to be accounted for in all of these conversations. Okay. It's not just American leftist elites who are creating propaganda, or the World Economic Forum, or the WHO, but these other nations, to include Russia at the top of the list, put out some powerful propaganda. So then it's like, then I need to be thinking about it like, are they going to show me what they want to show me about how war is being waged in a place that I have very little ability to verify? So I had my idea that, hey, this is smoke and mirrors and this whole war is a joke. And then I spoke with big policy guy. Oh man, I had him on my show. His name is coming out of my head. I'm gonna do something I don't normally do, but I'm gonna open my Twitter here.
It'll get you. Don't worry.
Yeah, Michael Johns. There we go. I spoke with Michael Johns, and he broke some things down for me about what's going on in Ukraine, and about how exactly what you said. Ukraine has to win this war no matter what. It's not their 1776 moment, but it's an important moment. And then he, do I think we should be spending, 50, 60, 70 plus billion dollars? I don't know. That's a separate conversation. But he did win me over. Michael John single-handedly won me over about what the optics and what the message coming out of this war has to be. And it cannot be a sweeping victory for Putin and for Russia. And we're teeter-tottering with instability in the region. We're talking China v. Taiwan. We're talking expanding the borders of Russia more. There are some people, and if you listen to J.D. Rucker, he had a guest on, and they were talking about Putin's desire to restore
Soviet Union.
Yeah. So Eastern
the
Bloc,
Russian Empire.
Western Bloc. Yeah. Just
Eastern Bloc. Yeah.
Restore it. So, and you look
Warsaw
at that map.
Pact. Yeah. Whatever the name is.
Yeah. You look at that map, what it is today and what it would take to restore it. That's insane. That's, in my view, that's a World War III type scenario. That is an expansion. If we didn't already have World War II, I would say that's an unprecedented expansion. But it seems like World War II Part 2, minus the genocide of the Jews. Anyway, super fascinating and very intricate subject. I had my opinions as former military. I'm a Homeland Security guy, and I was dug in, and I spoke with Michael Johns and a couple of other policy types in that area of the country, and they swayed my opinion. I need to have them back on my show to talk about it some more. How's it going to end? I do not want to see United States military action. You talked about sanctions not working. This is something that Ben Carson talks about at length. And there are a handful of real, true America First governors who talk about this. One of the things that America can do to provide international stability is lead well and care for America first. And that, it sounds weird, but it's that put your mask on before you try and put the mask on others. So
on the plane, that thing, I keep repeating it. It's like life 101. If
we get serious about our own interests and about projecting power into the world, about our own oil production, about China is making a move with World Bank or whatever the crap they call it, to usurp our dollar, to our economic power. We need to reject all of that stuff. We need to not prop up the dollar as a fiat just by printing more, but we need to make all of the moves that Donald Trump was making to fortify our position of power in the world. That's why you saw stability. It wasn't because Donald Trump was crazy and had his finger on the nuke buttons or whatever. It's because us projecting power, doing the America First thing, fighting to the top of the natural resource, battle, the oil battle.
Energy independence, first
Yeah,
and foremost.
is huge. And that's why you're seeing countries like Germany, like France. They're starting to, they're basically cowering. They're starting to go introspective and getting at. They don't want to be in the headlines. They don't want to be an international debate because now they are arguing from a position of weakness and they're vulnerable. That vulnerability will exist so long as this administration's in the White House, so long as we are not, we got to drive this thing. Like we really do.
Absolutely. And we have such a great toolbox. I keep saying about it. America has a wonderful toolbox for democracy, for making one's voice heard. So you got to get up out of your sofa, District 8, Brooklyn, New York. Please, it's a little bit early, but I will be reminding you people. November 8th, election day, go and vote for midterm elections and make New York surprise red wave. Make it happen in New York, make it happen everywhere. And whoever's listening, friends, you know that my audience is mostly Republicans, mostly conservatives. Some people come here out of curiosity. I don't know their affiliation. But, Joe, my take on this Ukraine, US, Russia situation is I hear I'm saying it for a long time, and it's kind of street view on the situation. And I think that Putin and Biden had common displeasure with Ukraine, so to speak. We know that a lot of skeletons are there for the Republican and Democratic and Republican Party, because a lot of projects being approved by Congress get funded by American people, and they were brought to Ukraine to look. I hate to say it, but some fighting for peace things, all those green that and green that this projects, they were brought there, and money flew in every direction, including the corrupt local politicians and corrupt American politicians. So that's one interest from here. And the other interest is Putin hating on Ukraine, because Ukraine showed the way. They had this Maidan uprising. They turned things around. They exiled the guy who was running on Putin's behalf things in Ukraine, Yanukovych. So they had this common thing towards Ukraine, to common hatred in common, so with each other. So to me, it's obvious that the operation was to take over Kiev, to overthrow the government. And when Joe Biden said that if it will be a limited incursion, we wouldn't mind, something to that effect.
Yeah.
Insanely stupid. And then he said that when Russia went in, and Zelensky, whatever you can say about it, the stupid jokes before, and whatever. I mean, that when he was in this comedy club, etc. I didn't find it very funny, but he was the engine behind this whole comedy enterprise that was on TV for so long in Ukraine. But he decided to stay, and he refused to leave. And that turned things around. And then Putin went, decided to gamble. So if the initial plan was to go in there, do everything, say, in a week, then he said, no, Biden said, let's take Zelensky out. He offered him transportation to take him to, like so many governments in exile, to take him to Great Britain, take him to London, and let him run things, represent the independent Ukraine from there. Well, it would become a Russian protectorate or something like that, to that effect. So Putin decided to gamble, and he broke this agreement was that they possibly had with Biden and William Burns, who traveled for like one-day visit to Moscow, for secret visit to discuss those things. So that's where things went awry. That's where it all started to take shape of this unchecked aggression towards Ukraine.
Now, I think this is what happens just before the United States starts the practice of, and guys, this is not a conspiracy. The Pentagon has posted this publicly through their channels. This isn't national security secrets, but our intelligence community and State Department and DoD have provided intelligence. all forms of intelligence, human, signals, data, everything, to Ukraine to fortify their military operation. And then we see the Russian generals at the front start to, perish, meet their untimely demises.
Yeah.
Now, I'll say, I know a good bit about intelligence, and obviously I'm not going to talk about it here, but I will say that seems a little bit suspicious to me. I'm not intimately familiar with Ukrainian military capabilities, but I am intimately familiar with combat and waging war and how intelligence works. I am of the belief, and yes, guys, this is a conspiracy. Pentagon did not say this. I am of the belief that we did not just provide intelligence of the troop movements, equipment, and capabilities of the Russian army in and around Ukraine, but I believe that we conducted operations against that military just because of the combat effectiveness for these campaigns to kill these generals. Do the Ukrainians have that capability? I don't know. It seems interesting to me. This is something that defense forces like Israel is very good about, strategic targeting of high value targets and non-permissive environments. Israel's very good. We are very good. Hate to say it, but France, really the Legionnaires, extremely good about that high value target prioritization. But the thing that scares me the most about the conflict is Russia's ability to delineate between us supporting Ukraine and us increasing hostile activities. Because I believe that we sent people in with the Ukrainians or just our own people to execute these generals. Maybe you have better insight into that, or
No, I
maybe
don't.
someone in your audience.
I gladly would accept, but the Russians. I mean, I'm sorry if I interrupted you.
No, go ahead.
Because it's just that the Russians. The situation there is people. I mean, some people would object to that, of course, like people object to everything these days. But Russians and Ukrainians look pretty much the same. They speak similar languages, Slavic languages. Most of Ukrainians are bilingual. They speak Russian as well because of so many years of living as part of Soviet Union, and a lot of what they consume comes from Russia. A lot of culture used to consume come from Russia. A lot of Ukrainians served and still serve, I believe, in Russian army. Because that was something that I never was in the military. I just had this part of I'm not sure how it would be called, because I had part of my education to become an officer in Soviet army in my day, but I was never an actual officer. I just had the rank of like a lieutenant. And then same thing in Ukraine. There are Russians in the army, and there are Ukrainians who are sympathetic to the Russian government, to Putin. So it's a lot of treasoning, a lot of traitoring. Like every 2 weeks, they fire somebody from the government. They put them under investigation for treason in Ukraine, and same thing in Russia. Because there are people on both sides that they convey a lot of information to the other side. It's very how would I call it, internecine, right? The word would be it's very intramural in a way that it's two Slavic peoples fighting with each other with totally different goals. Ukraine wants to be left alone. Ukraine wants to be part of Europe. Ukraine wants to forget the Soviet past. They demolish the monuments. They have people that a lot of people disagree that they are a legitimate subject for monumentalizing, like Stepan Bandera and Shushkevich and other people who are blemished with anti-Semitism. But a lot of American Jews here, American Russian, American Ukrainian, a lot of Jews came from Ukraine who live on the Brighton Beach here in this area. They support Ukraine wholeheartedly. They say, forget anti-Semitism, forget Bandera, forget Shushkevich, forget this. I mean, we never forget the victims, of course, but we need to forget is not the right word, of course. No, but just put it aside. We have a problem at hand. We have this invasion, we have this aggression, we have this beast, the very rusty, cruel, relentless machine that rolled into Ukraine and is destroying it. So it has to be put back in its place. So emotionally, it's a very hard time for people here, and they have problems sorting out, and they think that Republicans are people who want Russia to win. And sometimes when you listen to some big time commentators like Tucker Carlson, people say that he's a Putin agent. I don't believe he's Putin agent. It's just that he's trying to look at different angles, and maybe with his ingenious way of with words, he may be not so ingenious in expressing certain things, because nobody wants Putin to win. That's for sure.
Yeah,
we just want to put an end to that. That's it. And how to do it? Of course, it's energy independence and the right person in the White House, and the right people in Congress.
I think that there are some governors that can do a lot. I think that Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, you guys build your own wall. I think these heartland states, build your own pipeline, and maybe that through a coalition with governors like Glenn Youngkin sends, Virginia's got a $200 million surplus. Maybe we contribute to that, because that, we do not need permission from the federal government to do anything. The federal government has a very limited, that when we say limited government, small government, we don't mean the physical size of the government. I could care less. We're talking about limited in scope of powers. The federal government has the authority to do a small list of stuff that's outlined in the Constitution. So we're talking about a book that's less than 20 pages, tells everything the federal government's allowed to do. Everything else, all of the creativity, imagination. We got Elon Musk sending rockets out in space, and they're making, self-propelled this and self-driving that. All of that creative ingenuity and power and authority rest in the people and rest in the state. So I'm to the point, like, yes, the federal government serves a purpose and the military serves a purpose, but I'm to the point where I'm calling on states to say, we can do whatever the F we want. We are a state. This is federalism means states' rights, not federal government.
That's right.
And they need to tell the government to kick rocks. We'll sue. We'll see you in court. I don't care. Kristi Noem builds an ark. Kristi Noem builds a pipeline in her state. She wins that lawsuit 10 out of 10 times. Where in the Constitution or in the United States Code does it say that South Dakota, the people of South Dakota and the governor of South Dakota can't build a pipeline, and that truckers can't come and get oil out of that pipeline and take it where it needs to go? Or, if we can get the pipeline going in all states, great. If not, get it where it's going, and then truckers will take care of the rest. But we need, the federal government shouldn't be abolished, but we need states to get back in the game. They'll take our federal tax dollars. Just like we see people are on welfare, our prison, they're held captive by welfare, and they're held at the poverty line. States are doing the same thing when they say, the federal government, big daddy government will take you will make more money. That is a cap. It's not a minimum wage, it's a maximum wage. The government is imposing a maximum wage on states through threat of, it's coercive. They're coercing states into not doing what will cause more flourishing by saying, we will take something away from you. Well, look, if they'll take $100 from me to enable me to make $1,000, I'm going to do that. And we need states to step up and be states. It's the United States of America. It is not the federal government presides over, coast to coast, border to border. That's not how this works.
last question maybe for today, so we would stay within the format. Joe, what do you think is the chance that this there could be some foul play at this elections, midterm elections, because it's very important, and the Congress, the House of Representatives elections are very important for the future of this country. Do you think that coming out in numbers, like really standing up and voting, would overcome the possible shenanigans, as they call it, at the polling sites?
I believe YouTube's an interesting place with what you can say. Shenanigans is a good word. I believe 100% that there will be shenanigans, and there have been shenanigans all throughout the history of the United States and elections. That's part of it, people. If you don't believe that, then I got a bridge to sell you in Arizona. So the question is, like Donald Trump said, these things are algorithmic the way that they're done now. Robert Beadles has got a lot of excellent work about this out of Arizona with the Joey Gilbert gubernatorial race, where he really dives into the algorithm and like, this is what it does, and this is how widespread it is. Because if you want someone who's senator, gubernatorial candidate, whatever, to achieve X result in an election, you can't just do that election. You actually have to do all sorts of elections, maybe congressionals, school board, town council. Like, you have to consider all of those things because of how it all makes sense. You can't just, it's like looking at a basketball team and saying, well, we're trying to rig the results, so we're just going to alter the stats of one player. It's like, no, you actually need to do the whole league. You need to look at the entire bracket and all the different cities they're going to play in, and you have to tinker with something every step of the way. So yeah, shenanigans is 1,000% going to happen. But just like what very likely happened before, guys were on YouTube, manpower overpowers computer power all of the time. Okay. Machines don't have the autonomy. They don't have the agency to preserve themselves. I can overpower this machine. I can make it do stuff that will cause it to destroy itself and have the CPU usage at 10,000% and blah, 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 blah. So showing up to vote in person on the day, they're not going to know how many ballots they need. They're not going to know where they need them, and they're not going to know. Like, that's what you need. You need criminal to perpetrate the big F word. You need criminal intent. You need time and space, and you need intelligence. How many votes? Where? For who? If we don't allow the criminal intent, we can't control. The time and space. The way that we control time and space is by voting in person on the day. Okay. I voted by mail when I was in the military because I did not live in the state that I was a resident of, or you're deployed. If you are able-bodied, you get your butt out. It's one day every 2 or 4 years. If you can't get childcare or make arrangements with work or whatever, if you can't plan for one day every 4 years or every 2 years, depending on where you live, that's completely irresponsible. So, and we're talking about like a 10, 11, 12-hour window of voting. So get your butt to the polling place and vote in person on the day. And that will make it harder for any type of algorithmic things to be successful, because they don't know how many votes they need and where they need them. If you mail in your vote, if you vote early in person, it gives a nefarious actor the opportunity to act on their criminal intent with the intelligence and the time and space that you've given them. Do not give the enemy intelligence, whoever that enemy might be. Do not give them the time and space in which to operate.
Yeah. Fantastic, Joe. Thank you so very much. I wanted to finish off as we were talking. I remembered that I had my two first jobs. One was when I came to this country 26 years ago. I had two first jobs. One was being an extra in a movie, and I was lucky to be with Denzel Washington there. And my other job was I was asked to teach kids internet. Kids didn't know internet then, believe it or not, 26 years ago. So to the disadvantaged kids of Camden, New Jersey. And I listened to the kids, and I heard their inspirations and what they plan to achieve in life. And I said, in this country, if you have a piece of paper and a pencil, that's first tool that you need to advance yourself in life. You want to be an artist, you want to sketch something and try to sell it. You want to write a song, a rap, composition. You can write it and show it around. So pencil and paper is the first thing that moves you. The word, the freedom of speech. And that was something that I think I got through their minds, and we had a good time. Like for 3 months, I had this program teaching them creative writing and the internet, how to use it. Eventually it kind of transmogrified into this position. So with this, this is the American election. This is the paper and the pen, and you go and you stand your ground in this form provided to you by great American democracy. Please keep it. We have to keep it. We have to pass it further to our kids and their kids eventually.
Oh, we need to get back to paper ballots. Do you notice when we did paper ballots for all of those years and years for over?
I remember the lever.
Yeah, but you remember that? And amazingly, with that technology, they were able to count all of the votes that same night. And somehow we know that computing power makes things supposedly faster, but somehow it takes days, if not weeks, to tabulate electronic votes. Isn't that strange? I'll say one last thing to Rena, who says, such a fine man. Thank you for that. His parents should be proud of him. My parents, yes, they're New Yorkers. They're staunch Democrats, but they are very proud of me. And I'm very thankful, even though we are all over the political ideological sphere in my family. My family supports me, and they are very proud of me. And my one of my sisters is a lesbian and a leftist, and she has a podcast as well. And we're two of the closest people in my family. So I'm very thankful. Cancel culture does not exist in my family like it does in many. But yeah, so shout out to Rena in the chat.
Joe, thank you so very much. And that was our first session. I hope we'll be back, and we'll talk in depth into some things that we will feel necessary to talk about. And thank you for your support. And let's do it. Let's do it, man, this November.
Yes, thanks.
All right. Друзья, thank you so very much, friends. And let me say a few words in Russian while you're here, because I have a fundraiser. Друзья, у нас фандрейзер, не забываем об этом. Передавайте эту информацию и, пожалуйста, приходите к нам на наш вечер 27 июля в 7 часов вечера. Наш друг Борис Палант и я, мы будем встречать вас. Стоимость билета $101. Это фандрейзер. И цель — собрать деньги на мою кампанию избирательную. juryforus.com — это веб-сайт, куда можно пойти, нажать кнопку Donate и нажать кнопочку 101, специально для этой цели созданную там. Это означает, что вы купили билет, если вы заплатили там в мою компанию. info@dashevsky.com — это интернет, это email, по которому вы можете написать мне. И адрес — это Essence Sierra Studio, 2653 Coney Island Avenue, перекресток Avenue X и Coney Island Avenue. Примерно вот на этом блоке находится Essence Sierra Studio. Вас там будем ждать 27 июля в 7 часов вечера. Будет весело, красиво. И те, кто был на фандрейзере с Алексеем Орловым, знают, что это было просто замечательно. Joe, now a special thank you and goodbye. And see you soon, my friends.
Thanks, Jerry.